Make no mistake, people will get rich in the next crypto bull run because of the decisions they make right now. There is this narrative, this story in crypto that I am more excited about than pretty much anything else. Except I never had a name for it until now. It's called DePIN, and I think it's going to completely dominate the landscape in 2024 and 2025. But what even is DePIN, and what are my top DePIN crypto projects? DePIN stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks, and it's something I have been excited about for years now, and I didn't even realize it. In fact, I've actually been investing in this space already. I just didn't know it had that name. I was DePIN lost, and now I'm DePIN found. What are decentralized physical infrastructure networks? Well, things like wireless or 5G networks, geospatial networks, storage or compute networks, etc. These are services that require some physical infrastructure to operate. Like if you're going to provide a 5G network to mobile phones, you will need physical 5G antennas in all the areas you want to provide the network to. And the beauty of DePIN is that you can build these networks faster than ever because of decentralization. Let's take Uber, for example. They wanted to disrupt the entire taxi industry.
Do you think you're talking to?
Well, there are millions of taxi drivers worldwide across thousands of companies. Even if you raised insane amounts of money, you couldn't buy enough cars and invest in enough drivers to come close to disrupting the entire industry. So instead, you incentivize individuals who already have cars to become your taxi drivers. Your startup cost is much smaller and your impact is much bigger. Doing that, they managed to carve out a massive chunk of the taxi market share, and that's still with a centralized corporation in the mix. Well, this is where I think you can see the power of crypto and DePIN. When you have tokens you can use to incentivize individuals like you or me to provide the infrastructure, you can build a network basically overnight. This is why I think that DePIN is where Web3 will finally get to shine in the real world, by providing not only real world value, but also real world utility. Given that utility and the empowerment of end users, I think this narrative is going to be massive in the next bull run. Every crypto cycle has had different stories and narratives that make big waves. Like in 2017 and 18, the narratives were the ICO craze, privacy coins, masternode coins, and the emergence of Ethereum into the mainstream. In 2020 and 21, it was DeFi and NFTs and the rise of layer ones, among many other narratives. Well, in 2024 and 2025, I think it will be several things like the emergence of Bitcoin further into the mainstream with an ETF, an expanded DeFi maturation, and things like GameFi, SocialFi, and other Web3 initiatives. But I also think one of the biggest narratives will be DePIN. So what are the top DePIN projects that I am looking at? Let's start with compute projects. These are cryptos that want to become like a decentralized Amazon Web Services, where you can use the network to host your app or website or whatever. Or it's cryptos that want to provide CPU and GPU resources for things like video editing, rendering, or more importantly, and more top of mind right now, AI compute. Well, the first project is pretty obvious if you watch my channel, and it's Flux. It's one of my largest positions, and they have been building nonstop since 2018. Earlier on, they wisely pivoted their focus to build something akin to a decentralized Amazon Web Services, where users can run nodes or computers that provide resources to the network, and then you get incentivized to run them by receiving rewards. However, they have definitely taken a shift lately with the advent of mainstream AI, and now also are laser focusing on compute, especially for AI. And AI is not going anywhere, so any project that can crack the code of providing resources for AI companies that's far cheaper than what the big centralized companies can provide, well, they could win big. Like, imagine being able to run some software on your home desktop computer that allows it to be rented out by AI companies when you aren't using it, and then you get paid in the process. This is the promise of Flux and others like it. The demand for compute resources for AI is only going to get more intense in the future. So this could be a massive win for compute-focused crypto projects. But Flux isn't alone. I've also invested into Clore AI, which has similar compute goals, but is just a much newer project that's a lot scrappier, but shows some potential. And there are others too that look promising, like Akash and Render, that I haven't invested in yet, but I am currently looking at, and that have a lot of headwind in the compute space. Each of these have advantages and disadvantages over all the different competitors, but overall, I really do believe that Even if the one I focus on doesn't win this competition, the market will be so huge that it will be a rising tide that will lift all boats or all projects that survive in this space until the next bull run. Adjacent to compute is the storage category. These are cryptos that reward you for providing hard drive space to the network. And there are actually quite a few that I have already mentioned in this video that have blurry lines between compute and data storage. But another example of this is Octaspace. They are a distributed data and storage project. They also offer VPN services. But where a project like Flux is very infrastructure centric, Octaspace is more end user and services centric. However, for much more storage focused projects, I'm currently invested in SC Prime. You can run it on a DIY storage server or get one of their pre-built storage servers like I did. The idea is very much like AWS, but more storage focused. People or companies can buy storage from them, and all those files are stored across their storage servers that are spread out around the world. Now, they haven't had a big focus on marketing yet, but I suspect that will change in the next year or two. One of the biggest projects in this space is called Filecoin. I haven't invested into Filecoin, but I am looking at it. They are taking a different approach to SC Prime in that instead of building out their network to be more compatible and focused on existing storage protocols, they are instead kind of throwing money at the problem and developing their own and trying to onboard companies to their way of doing things. Decentralized wireless network providers are another category that is super interesting to me. And for what I'm looking at, these come in two different flavors: mobile phone data and Wi-Fi data. For mobile phone data, projects focusing on 5G is the way to go. And Helium is looking really strong in this category. Ever since their total failure with IoT networking, even after having mass onboarding of people running their hotspots, of which I have 5, that now basically do nothing, well, I was pretty bearish on Helium and I didn't see much potential going forward. But they have since pivoted quite a bit. They are now focused on 5G data. You can run a 5G Helium hotspot with a 5G antenna and provide for their mobile phone data network and get rewarded for doing so. And maybe that sounds familiar with what they were doing previously, but this time they are consumer focused with a pretty killer idea. Unlimited 5G mobile data for only $5 a month. And the best part is they have already launched this in Miami, Florida. Not only that, but they have partnered with T-Mobile to help provide for the network when their user-run infrastructure isn't quite enough yet. So I've gone from excited about Helium to very unhappy with them to being pretty dang excited about them again. I'm currently running one of the Helium 5G hotspots and earning. The other wireless angle is just providing Wi-Fi. That's where the project Wi-Fi map comes in. There is a bit of overlap here with Helium in that you could also do voice and data over Wi-Fi if you're connected, but Wi-Fi Map isn't just focused on providing wireless internet everywhere. They also offer mapping and VPN services all in a great looking app. And in terms of market cap size, potential here. Now, there are several more projects I want to go through in a lightning round here because I do plan to cover them more deeply in upcoming videos. First is Hivemapper, which is a company that has a dash cam you can run in your car. When you drive around, it takes photos of all the streets. For doing this, you get paid in their tokens. They are building a decentralized Google Street View, essentially. Demo has the device you can also run in your car. It takes your car's data like gas mileage, health status, private GPS tracking, engine codes, etc. And then they monetize that data and pay you for using it, which is cool because there are lots of car companies that do this already without you even knowing it, and they don't pay you when they do it. GeoDNet is a geospatial network. You run one of their devices they call a space weather station, and you help them gather geospatial data for use on their network. Basically, they use the space weather stations to help them make satellite positioning data far more accurate than it would be otherwise, among other uses. Crank is a project that is following a similar path of Helium with IoT before they got derailed. Crank hopes to make right a lot of what Helium got wrong. And you can actually use your Helium miners with Crank and earn more money than you would running on Helium. So that's a lot of projects for you to look at in this space, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. The DePIN space is going to be huge. But there is one more play I wanted to mention here because while it's not a DePIN play in and of itself, it is one that could benefit greatly from the rise of DePIN, and that is Solana. There are quite a few DePIN projects that are building on Solana right now, so it might become the blockchain of choice for DePIN in the future. I have not been a big Solana fan in the past. However, they have been building like crazy during this bear market, and there are more and more crypto companies that are choosing Solana to build on themselves. So that feels pretty bullish to me, so I'm buying. Well, like I said earlier in the video, I see GameFi as another potentially huge narrative in the next crypto bull run. Well, watch this video to see one GameFi project I'm pretty excited about right now and exactly how much money it's making me. Goodbye.